Hello, Cleveland. This is Ward 3 City Council Person Carrie McCormack. I am back with you to talk about the city's budget once again. So we've had a busy week here at City Hall. The entire week has been dedicated to the city budgeting process. As a reminder, last week we had the federal community development block grant budgets, and then next week we'll continue with the general fund budgets, which is what we had this week. Quick reminder, the general fund is about 1/3 of the city's overall budget. Other major elements of the city's budget are things like the enterprise funds, which are your utilities, the airport, etc., as a part of that. And you'll hear about some of that today. The general fund is about $670 million. And the way this works is the mayor proposes a budget, just like you would see at the county, state, or federal level. It comes to council for deliberation, any amendments, and then it is voted on. So we're going through the process right now of having a lot of public hearings to talk about what's in that budget. Our general fund budget is made up primarily of income taxes. So, we hear a lot in the community about property taxes and what's going on with those. But the majority of the city's revenue for the general fund is the income taxes. It's about 66% of what makes up of the general fund. So to jump into a little bit about what we talked about today, and I'm gonna I'm gonna start on Tuesday, which was our first day, and I'll work our way through the week, and I'm gonna do it briefly. So on Tuesday, the mayor came to council and officially presented his budget. For about 3.5 hours, the mayor took questions and answers from council members on all sorts of things going on in the city. It was a lively conversation about the current state of the city and a lot about city services. From there, on Tuesday, we discussed the budget for the office of the mayor, so that's all of the mayor's key staff and cabinet officials, as well as city council and our staff here. In addition, we discussed all of the boards and commissions at the city of Cleveland. So those are things like the City Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Board of Building Standards, which hears appeals from code violations, the Landmarks Commission, and yes, the Boxing and Wrestling Commission, because for some reason there is a Boxing and Wrestling Commission. In addition, on Tuesday we heard from the Office of Quality Control and Performance Management, who uses data to track efficiencies at the city. On Wednesday was a big one. We heard from the Department of Public Safety. This is about 60% of the entire city budget. This is a big one. Under the Department of Safety, we heard about animal care and control. So this is going to really tie into our brand new kennel, which is a beautiful facility on the west side. In addition, we heard from the Division of Emergency Medical Services, so our folks at EMS that do such a great job taking care of folks that need emergency services. The next one up, we talked about fire, and really got into a lot of the conversations in fire about our firehouses, specifically in Ward 3, talking about things like the fireboat along the Cuyahoga River and why it's so important to keep the fireboat doing well. Good news is the city of Cleveland has will be purchasing a brand new fireboat to serve the Flats neighborhoods and the entire river. Next up, we heard from the Division of Police at the city of Cleveland. This is we have about 1,600 police officers here at the city of Cleveland. And we heard all from them about their strategy around recruiting officers of all different backgrounds, and about a lot of the different changes that have come into training and policing in Cleveland due to the federal consent decree with the city of Cleveland. In addition, with public safety, we heard the Police Review Board, Department of Justice, and Police Inspector General. Again, those are all entities of oversight that came through the consent decree. We also heard about the Community Relations Board. So this is the board at the city of Cleveland that has folks in all different neighborhoods that deal with community-based and resident-based issues. In addition to that, they have different liaisons like the LGBT liaison, Hispanic liaison, etc. And we also, so that wrapped up our Wednesday. Coming into Thursday, we heard from the Department of Public Health. So the Department of Public Health has various departments that operate throughout the city. So things like air quality, the environment, and health. So they're doing things like inspecting restaurants and food and beverage businesses to make sure that they are safe for people. They're testing air quality, and they're also really working on different environmental issues. One major one here in Cleveland would be lead paint poisoning prevention, which I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about here with our Lead Safe Cleveland Coalition and all the work that's gone into that. We also heard from the Department of Aging, which provides a plethora of services to older adults here in Cleveland, from home repair to transportation to recreational services. Next up was the Law Department. So the Law Department here, they're the attorneys for the city. They do all sorts of different work, whether it's liquor control hearings or and essentially provide legal service and advice for all departments at the city of Cleveland. We also heard from the Department of Port Control, another major entity, and that's actually a part 2 of the enterprise funds. That's going to be your airport and the ports. So Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, we had a long review about what's going on at the airport. A lot of great stuff coming out of the airport. They just actually went above 10 million passengers for the first time in a long time. And they're also going through a strategic planning process right now as to whether to significantly renovate the airport or to build a new one. A lot of interesting stuff in that briefing. I would encourage you to look at that. Again, all of these hearings you can find online, and we can send you a copy of any hearing that you're interested in listening to. In addition, we heard from the Department of Community Development. So the Department of Community Development does a whole lot of stuff, but it deals directly with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I talked a little bit about them in the CDBG budget tapes from last week, but they do all sorts of things around home repair, around senior assistance, around community development, around affordable housing. They've got a new director there, Tanya Maness. She's dynamic and doing a lot of great things to turn that department around and really make it a relevant player in Cleveland. On Thursday, we also heard from the Department of Economic Development. So those are the folks that are going to be working on bringing in small businesses into Cleveland, helping with residential and commercial development here in the city. Very involved in Ward 3 and other parts around the city. Finally, today we wrapped up the week with our justice system kicking it off. So the Cleveland Municipal Court, Judicial, Housing, and Clerks Division all presented to council today. So those are our Cleveland municipal judges who deal mainly with misdemeanor offenses, as well as our housing court and our clerk of courts all presented today. In addition, we heard from the city's Department of Human Resources. Our Department of Human Resources provides HR support to the entire city apparatus. All included airport, fire, police, EMS, city workers. There's about 8,000 people that work for the city of Cleveland. So you can imagine how important human resources is to the city of Cleveland. Next up, we heard from the Civil Service Commission, as well as the Office of Equal Opportunity. These are the folks, the Civil Service Commission, that are responsible for providing the hiring practices at the city of Cleveland. They got a lot of tough questions around how do we make sure that we are bringing in diverse candidate sets into the city of Cleveland, especially around public safety, and to ensure that the folks that work for the city of Cleveland represent and look like the city of Cleveland. Good discussion there. I'd encourage you to check that out. Next up, the Office of Equal Opportunity. Those are the folks here at the city of Cleveland that are tasked with making sure that where and when the city spends money or goes into contracts, that they're doing so with small businesses, with minority businesses, female-owned businesses, and beyond. And then last but not least, we heard from the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects. Those are the folks who are going to be doing the capital expenditures here in Cleveland. Roads, rec centers, building rec centers, doing things like major building projects that are in the public right away in Cleveland. So anytime the city builds something big, like we're looking at right now, a new police headquarters, the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects is going to be responsible for coordinating those types of buildings. So long story short, we had a long week of great hearings around a lot of different city services. I'd encourage you to request those footages or the videos from any of these topics that you're interested in. You can also find the full budget online. You can go through the entire thing. I'm going to post it as a part of this video. But again, this was a conversation this week around the categories that I mentioned in this video as a part of the general fund of the city of Cleveland, which is your income tax producing services here at the city of Cleveland. So wanted to give you a recap of the week. Hopefully these are helpful, and I'll be back next week to talk about week 2 out of 2 of our general fund budget hearings here at the City of Cleveland. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.